Hello, everyone, and good Monday morning. It is a bit rainy here in New York City and cloudy, but it is still a good Monday. Today's topic, the peaceful spiritual warrior. Oh, it almost appears contradictory. Peaceful, spiritual, and then warrior, because many of us associate warrior with war and fighting and weapons and soldiers, maybe. But this is a bit of a different context. But it is, before we go into the spiritual and the peaceful part, it is good to understand what is the personality of a warrior. What is that mindset of a warrior? The warrior is brave. The warrior is disciplined also. If there is no discipline, forget it. You will be knocked out very quickly. A warrior also is resilient. Yeah, and he will bounce back. He get knocked down maybe sometimes, but he will get back up. He never, ever gives up. And a warrior is very clear. His aim is victory. And you don't give up before victory. No, it is either victory or defeat, survival or death. And this mentality of bravery, power to face, this is the personality of a warrior, the mindset of the warrior. There is no room for fear. But also the warrior is clear about aim and bigger picture. That is why there is this dedication to the cause. And the warrior needs a certain wisdom also, because certain situations need to be able to decide, need to choose. He needs to detect the enemy. He needs to know who is the enemy. And this is where spirituality comes in. Because from the spiritual angle, there are not really any enemies outside. The real enemy is right here, has penetrated my thinking, has penetrated my mind. The real enemy are our negative tendencies, our confusion, our own insecurities. And so the inner being, the soul, has to rid itself from this enemy that has penetrated our consciousness. Something like anger, something like dependency and subservience emotionally to something, to someone, to a certain situation, to objects, greed, lustful behavior, fear and anxiety, ego. Those are the enemies. But we are subservient to the inner enemy, and then we fight with others outside. We are subservient to our greed, or we are subservient to our arrogance. We are subservient to our lust, and then we attack others. And then we become physically enemies of each other. We don't really recognize who and where is the real enemy. And in essence, all these negative traits and tendencies, in essence, it boils down to spiritual lack of spiritual knowledge, or spiritual confusion. We have forgotten that we are spiritual beings who have come from a spiritual dimension, and that this body is a tool to play the game of human life, with dignity, with serenity, with love, with joy, with peace. We've forgotten that. We've forgotten that others are also souls and our brothers, regardless of their skin color, their culture, their social, economic status, their nationality. Behind there are souls, our brothers. And so the spiritual warrior doesn't fight with guns and tanks and missiles, some other nation or other people. The spiritual warrior is at war with its own negative tendencies and inspires others also to be a warrior in that war, so that we can be victorious over the forces of darkness and ignorance and vices within our own mind, within our own consciousness. And we do that peacefully. We are peaceful spiritual warriors. That means we are not harsh towards ourselves, or subject the body to all kinds of harsh practices. No, we use elegantly spiritual insights. We come to clarity. We use meditation to re-emerge again the original nature of the soul, the nature of love, benevolence, the experience of timelessness, immortality of the soul. In an elegant way, we emerge those beautiful, elevated characteristics again. We begin to see this physical dimension for what it is. It is a stage with different props where spiritual actors, invisible actors, souls come to play the part. We play a game. Do not get into dependency or to identify. Coming out of that and to re-emerge our nature of peace, of love, of compassion, of joy, of contentment, of purity, on being a peaceful spiritual warrior. But that personality of strength, of bravery, because it needs courage to face the inner demons. It needs courage even to admit that there are even inner demons and that is the real enemy. That personality of a warrior who never gives up, who knows victory is destined. But we need to pay attention and be disciplined in it. Regular spiritual practices, meditation, spiritual studies means that you more and more expose yourself to the laws and the spiritual understandings. And also, the spiritual warrior has the, how to call it, the commander-in-chief, the supreme soul, who oversees the whole battle, who knows exactly what or where. And so the spiritual warrior has a very close relationship with God. So let's have a few minutes of practice. Now, get a feel and grasp this mind of a spiritual warrior who is peaceful, who is elegant, who is loving. So let's take a few moments. And practices are all simple. They are not elaborate and all kind of thing. It's like sharpening your axe, you could say. You create a few minutes regularly during the day to reflect more deeply, to shift your attention away from all the external things and situations, and to become aware of the invisible dimension. You allow the body to relax. You accept the situations and the dynamics in the physical world as they are for a few moments. Completely accept. No need to think about it. We can't change it anyway most of the time. So just let it go. No thoughts about it. And become aware of the invisible experiencer, the soul, the being of light that I am. And also acknowledge, learn to observe and detect when this ego and these bondages, when greed or jealousy, even in a subtle form, detect when it is coming up to the surface, when it is acting out through words or behavior, or even at the level of thoughts. And the spiritual warrior doesn't associate, doesn't identify. Says, oh, this is a tendency that I learned somewhere along the way, some acquired habit, which is useless and actually destructive. And remind the self of your higher nature. And sometimes it helps to have an image. Like a tiny spark of living light. The soul, being of consciousness operating from the forehead. This is the peaceful soul. Immortal, imperishable, free. Still. And any thought that comes up that distracts from this calm, serene, soothing, pure state of being, you just say, not now. This is not me. And you come back. Peaceful, free, timeless, living light. This living spark of light, the soul, does not need to go into ego or into attachments or subservience. Independent and immortal being of light. And this living spark is a child of God. God, who is the ocean of knowledge. God knows truth, lives truth, is truth. And this connection, the warrior with the commander-in-chief, God, will be victorious over any negativity. This connection and relationship of love, of truth, will defeat the demons inside. Om Shanti. So enjoy the life of the peaceful spiritual warrior. And your weapons are knowledge. Your weapons are meditation. Your weapons are silence. Your weapons are that loving connection with the Supreme. Your weapons are truth to fight the ignorance inside. Enjoy this path and enjoy the victory of truth. Bye-bye.